The shrill ring of my phone pierced the quiet of my studio, shattering my concentration. I glanced at the caller ID and felt my stomach lurch. Ethan, my ex-husband. I hadn't heard from him in 3 years, not since our messy divorce. With trembling fingers, I answered. Laura. His voice was cold, accusatory. What have you done to my parents? I blinked, caught off guard. Ethan, what are you talking about? Don't play dumb with me, he snarled. Mom and Dad are broke, and they're saying you're the reason why. What kind of sick game are you playing? My mind reeled. I hadn't spoken to Grace and Arnold in years, not since Ethan had left me for my sister, Rachel. I haven't seen your parents since before the divorce, I said, struggling to keep my voice steady. I have no idea what you're talking about. Liar! Ethan's voice rose to a shout. They've been sending you money for years, and now they can't even afford their medications. How could you do this to them? To me? I felt a surge of anger. How dare he accuse me of such a thing? After everything he'd done? Listen to me, Ethan, I said, my voice hard. I don't know what's going on with your parents, but I have nothing to do with it. Maybe you should look closer to home for answers. There was a pause on the other end of the line. When Ethan spoke again, his voice was low and menacing. I'm warning you, Laura. If I find out you've been manipulating my parents, I'll make you pay. You won't get away with this. The line went dead. I stared at my phone, my heart pounding. What the hell was going on? I barely had time to process the conversation when my studio door burst open. My assistant, Megan, rushed in, her face pale. Laura, there's a man downstairs causing a scene. He's demanding to see you. My blood ran cold. What does he look like? Megan's eyes widened. Tall, dark hair, expensive suit. He says he's your ex-husband. Oh, God, I muttered. I should have known Ethan wouldn't let it go. I took a deep breath, steeling myself. Okay, Megan, call security. I'll deal with this. I made my way downstairs, my mind racing. As I reached the lobby, I saw him. Ethan, looking as handsome and arrogant as ever, was shouting at the receptionist. Ethan, I called out, my voice sharp. What do you think you're doing? He whirled to face me, his eyes blazing with fury. You, he spat. You think you can ruin my family and get away with it? I stood my ground, aware of the growing crowd of onlookers. I haven't done anything to your family, Ethan. You're the one who destroyed ours, remember? His face contorted with rage. He took a step towards me, his fists clenched. Don't you dare turn this around on me. My parents trusted you, and you betrayed them. I felt a flicker of fear, but I refused to show it. Your parents haven't contacted me in years, Ethan. Whatever's going on with them has nothing to do with me. Liar, he roared, lunging forward. Suddenly, 2 security guards appeared, grabbing Ethan's arms. He struggled against them, his face red with fury. This isn't over, Laura, he shouted as they dragged him away. I'll make you pay for this. As the doors closed behind him, I sagged against the wall, my heart pounding. What had just happened? And more importantly, what was I going to do now? I looked up to see my entire staff staring at me, their faces a mix of shock and concern. I straightened up, forcing a calm I didn't feel. Show's over, folks, I said, my voice only slightly shaky. Back to work, please. As they dispersed, Megan approached me, her eyes wide. Laura, are you okay? Should I call the police? I shook my head, my mind already racing ahead. No, not yet, but I need you to clear my schedule for the rest of the day. I have some calls to make. As I headed back to my office, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. Whatever was going on with Ethan and his parents, I had a sinking feeling that my life was about to get a lot more complicated. I closed my eyes, letting the warm water of the shower wash over me, trying to rinse away the stress of the day. As I stepped out, wrapping myself in a towel, my mind drifted back to happier times, times when Ethan and I were newlyweds, full of hope and dreams. Laura, honey, I'm home. Ethan's voice echoed through our apartment, jolting me from my reverie. I quickly dressed and made my way to the living room. There he stood, my handsome husband, a bouquet of roses in his hand and a mischievous glint in his eye. What's the occasion? I asked, unable to keep the smile from my face. He pulled me close, his lips brushing my ear. Do I need an occasion to spoil my beautiful wife? I melted into his embrace, savoring the moment. This was the Ethan I fell in love with, charming, thoughtful, and completely devoted to me. But as I pulled away, I caught a whiff of unfamiliar perfume on his collar. My stomach clenched. But I pushed the thought aside. I was being paranoid, surely. "I have news," Ethan said, his excitement palpable. "The company's sending me to New York for a big project. It's a huge opportunity, Laura." My heart sank. "How long will you be gone?" "Just a couple of weeks," he assured me. "And guess what? Your sister Rachel's coming to stay while I'm away. She's between apartments and needs a place to crash. You two can have some quality sister time." I forced a smile, but inside, alarm bells were ringing. Rachel and I had never been close. She was younger, wilder, and had a knack for causing trouble wherever she went. "That's great," I lied, my mind already racing with potential disasters. The next morning, as Ethan left for the airport, Rachel arrived in a whirlwind of designer luggage and drama. "Laura, darling," she exclaimed, air kissing my cheeks. "It's been too long. This is going to be so much fun." I nodded, already exhausted. "Let me show you to the guest room." As we walked, Rachel chattered incessantly. "Oh, by the way, I ran into Ethan at the airport. He looked so dashing in his suit. You're such a lucky woman, Laura." I froze. The airport? But Ethan left hours ago. Rachel's eyes widened, then quickly narrowed. "Oh, did I say airport? I meant the coffee shop. Yes, that's it. I saw him at the coffee shop before he left." My suspicions, which had been simmering for weeks, suddenly boiled over. Rachel was lying, and badly at that. But why? Over the next few days, Rachel's presence grated on my nerves. She was constantly on her phone, giggling at texts and taking hushed calls in the hallway. When I asked about her job search or apartment hunting, she'd wave me off with vague excuses. One evening, I returned home early from work to find Rachel frantically stuffing something into her purse. "What are you doing?" I demanded. She jumped, guilt flashing across her face before she composed herself. "Nothing, just organizing my things. Why are you home so early?" I stepped closer, my eyes locked on her purse. "What are you hiding, Rachel?" "Don't be ridiculous," she snapped, clutching the purse to her chest. "You're so paranoid, Laura. No wonder Ethan—" She cut herself off abruptly. "No wonder Ethan what?" I pressed, my heart pounding. Rachel's face hardened. "Nothing. Forget I said anything." But I couldn't forget. That slip, combined with everything else, painted a picture I didn't want to see but couldn't ignore. That night, as Rachel slept, I crept into the guest room. My hands shook as I opened her purse, dreading what I might find. There, nestled among her makeup and keys, was a plane ticket to New York, dated for tomorrow. My world tilted on its axis. The perfume, the secretive calls, the lie about seeing Ethan at the airport. It all made terrible sense now. As I stood there, holding the evidence of my husband's betrayal and my sister's deception, I felt something inside me harden. The old Laura, trusting and naive, died in that moment. In her place rose a woman who would no longer be fooled, no longer be played for a fool. Tomorrow, I decided, there would be a reckoning, and neither Ethan nor Rachel would see it coming. I stood in the kitchen, my hands gripping the counter so tightly my knuckles turned white. The sound of Rachel's suitcase wheel rolling across the hardwood floor echoed through the apartment. "Laura," she called out. "I'm heading out for a bit. Don't wait up." I took a deep breath, steeling myself. It was now or never. "Going somewhere special, Rachel?" I asked, stepping into the hallway. She froze, her hand on the doorknob. "Oh, just meeting a friend." I held up the plane ticket I'd found in her purse. "A friend in New York, perhaps?" The color drained from Rachel's face. "Laura, I can explain." "Save it," I snapped. "I know you're going to see Ethan. How long has this been going on?" Rachel's demeanor changed in an instant. The guilt vanished, replaced by a cold, calculating look. "Longer than you'd like to know, sis," she said, her voice dripping with disdain. "Ethan and I, we have something special. Something you could never give him." The words hit me like a physical blow. "How could you do this to me? I'm your sister." She laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. "Oh, please, you've always had everything handed to you on a silver platter. The perfect job, the perfect husband. It's time I got what I deserved." By stealing my husband? I was shaking now, rage and hurt battling for dominance. "He was never really yours," Rachel sneered. "He was just waiting for something better to come along. Face it, Laura, you're not enough for him. You never were." I lunged forward, my hand connecting with her cheek in a resounding slap. Rachel stumbled back, shock written across her face. "Get out," I hissed. "Get out of my home, and don't you dare come back." Rachel grabbed her suitcase, her eyes blazing with fury. "You'll regret this, Laura. Ethan and I will make sure of it. As the door slammed behind her, I collapsed to the floor, sobs racking my body. How had everything fallen apart so quickly? Hours later, my phone buzzed. It was Ethan. "Laura?" His voice was cold, controlled. "We need to talk." "About what?" I asked, my own voice hollow. "About how you've been sleeping with my sister." There was a pause. "Rachel told me what happened. You had no right to attack her like that." I laughed bitterly. "No right? She's been having an affair with my husband. And I had no right." "It's not an affair," Ethan said firmly. "Laura, I'm in love with Rachel. I want a divorce." The world seemed to tilt on its axis. "A divorce?" I whispered. "Yes, I'll be back in town next week. We can discuss the details then." "Details," I echoed, feeling numb. "Ethan, wait." But the line had already gone dead. I sat in stunned silence, my mind reeling. My marriage was over. My husband, the man I'd loved and trusted, had betrayed me in the worst possible way. And my own sister had been complicit in it all. As the shock began to wear off, a new emotion took its place. Determination. I wouldn't let them see me broken. I wouldn't give them the satisfaction. I stood up, wiping away the last of my tears. If Ethan wanted a divorce, he'd get one, but it would be on my terms. I picked up my phone again, scrolling through my contacts until I found the name I was looking for. Sarah Goldstein, the best divorce attorney in the city. "Sarah?" I said when she answered. "It's Laura. I need your help. My husband's been having an affair with my sister, and he wants a divorce." "Oh, honey." Sarah's voice was sympathetic but steely. "Don't you worry. We'll make sure you come out of this on top." As I hung up, I felt a strange sense of calm wash over me. The life I'd known was over, shattered by betrayal and lies. But from the ashes of my old life, a new Laura would rise. And this Laura, she wouldn't be anyone's victim. Not anymore. The morning sickness hit me like a freight train. I barely made it to the bathroom before emptying the contents of my stomach. As I slumped against the cool tile floor, reality crashed down on me. I was pregnant. With shaking hands, I reached for my phone and dialed my doctor's office. An hour later, my suspicions were confirmed. 6 weeks along, my mind reeled. A baby. Ethan's baby. I stumbled out of the clinic in a daze, my thoughts a chaotic whirlwind. How could I bring a child into this mess? Ethan was in love with Rachel. Our marriage was falling apart. And now this. My phone buzzed. A text from Ethan. "Finalizing details in New York. Back next week. We need to talk." I stared at the screen, my finger hovering over the reply button. Should I tell him? Did he deserve to know? The thought of Ethan and Rachel raising my child made me physically ill. No, this was my decision to make. My body. My choice. I made my way to the office, trying to focus on work, but my mind kept drifting. By lunchtime, I couldn't take it anymore. I needed to talk to someone. Someone who would understand. I found myself outside Grace and Arnold's house, Ethan's parents. They had always been kind to me, treating me like a daughter. Before I could change my mind, I knocked. Grace answered, her face lighting up. "Laura, what a lovely surprise. Come in, dear." I followed her into the living room where Arnold was reading the paper. He smiled warmly at me. "Laura, it's been too long. How are you?" The concern in their eyes undid me. Tears welled up, and before I knew it, I was sobbing, the whole sordid story spilling out. Ethan's affair with Rachel, the impending divorce, and finally the pregnancy. Grace held me close, murmuring soothing words while Arnold's face darkened with anger. "That boy," he muttered. "We didn't raise him to behave like this." When I finally calmed down, Grace asked the question I'd been dreading. "What are you going to do about the baby, dear?" I took a deep breath. I don't know. I never thought I'd be in this position. Single, pregnant, about to go through a divorce. Arnold leaned forward, his eyes serious. "Laura, whatever you decide, we want you to know that we're here for you. Your family, regardless of what happens with Ethan." Grace nodded emphatically. "We'll support you, no matter what. If you want to keep the baby, we'll help in any way we can." Their unconditional support overwhelmed me. For the first time since discovering Ethan's betrayal, I felt a glimmer of hope. As I left their house, my phone buzzed again. Another text from Ethan. "Booked an appointment with the divorce lawyer for next Tuesday. Hope that works for you." A cold fury washed over me. He was already moving on, planning our divorce like it was just another business meeting. And here I was, carrying his child. My world turned upside down. In that moment, I made my decision. I would keep this baby. I would build a new life for us, without Ethan, without Rachel, without their toxicity and betrayal. I typed out a reply. Tuesday works. I'll be there with my lawyer. Then I made another call. Sarah? It's Laura again. There's been a development. I'm pregnant, and I'm keeping the baby. Sarah's intake of breath was audible. Oh, honey, this changes everything. Don't worry, we'll make sure you and that baby are taken care of. Ethan won't know what hit him. As I hung up, a strange calm settled over me. The path ahead would be difficult, filled with challenges I couldn't even imagine, but for the first time in weeks, I felt strong. Ready. Let Ethan and Rachel have each other. I had something far more precious now. A future. A family of my own. I placed a hand on my still flat stomach. It's just you and me, little one, I whispered. And we're going to be just fine. The day of the divorce meeting arrived with a sickening sense of finality. I stood outside the law office, my hand resting protectively over my still flat stomach. Taking a deep breath, I pushed open the door. Ethan was already there, looking annoyingly handsome in his tailored suit. His eyes widened slightly as they met mine, a flicker of something, guilt, regret, passing over his face before it hardened into a mask of indifference. Laura, he nodded curtly. Ethan, I replied, my voice steadier than I felt. We sat across from each other, an ocean of betrayal between us. Our lawyers began discussing terms, their voices a dull buzz in my ears. I focused on Ethan, studying the man I once thought I'd spend my life with. How had we ended up here? Suddenly the door burst open. Rachel sauntered in, her face a picture of faux concern. Oh, I'm so sorry I'm late, she cooed, placing a possessive hand on Ethan's shoulder. Traffic was terrible. I felt the blood drain from my face. What is she doing here? I demanded, my voice shaking with fury. Ethan at least had the decency to look uncomfortable. Rachel's here for moral support, he muttered. Moral support? I laughed bitterly. That's rich, coming from the two people who have the least morals in this room. Rachel's eyes narrowed. Now, Laura, there's no need to be nasty. We're all adults here. I stood up abruptly, my chair scraping against the floor. I want her out, I said, pointing at Rachel. This is between Ethan and me. She has no right to be here. Actually, Ethan cleared his throat. There's something you should know. He glanced at Rachel, who nodded encouragingly. Rachel and we're engaged. The world tilted on its axis. Engaged. The word echoed in my head, each repetition a fresh stab of pain. How long? I whispered, my voice barely audible. Ethan shifted uncomfortably. We've been talking about it for a while. I was going to tell you after. How long? I repeated, each word dripping with venom. Rachel smirked, flashing a diamond ring I hadn't noticed before. Since last month. We didn't want to upset you, but we're just so in love. Something inside me snapped. All the pain, the betrayal, the fear of the past weeks coalesced into a white-hot rage. In love? I spat. You want to talk about love? Let me tell you something about love. I turned to Ethan, my eyes blazing. I'm pregnant. The room fell silent. Ethan's face drained of color. Rachel's smug smile faltered. What? Ethan choked out. You heard me, I said, my voice gaining strength. I'm carrying your child. The child you were ready to abandon along with your marriage vows. Ethan stumbled to his feet. Laura, I had no idea. Why didn't you tell me? When should I have told you, Ethan? When you were sneaking around with my sister. Or maybe when you were planning your engagement behind my back. Rachel's face contorted with fury. You're lying, she hissed. You're just trying to manipulate him. I laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. Manipulate him? That's your area of expertise, Rachel, not mine. I turned back to Ethan, who looked shell-shocked. I don't want anything from you, I said, my voice cold. Not your money, not your time, nothing. This child and I will be just fine without you. With that, I gathered my things and walked towards the door. As I reached for the handle, Ethan called out. Laura, wait. We need to talk about this. It's my baby, too. I paused, my hand on the doorknob. Without turning around, I said, You lost the right to call it your baby when you chose her over us. As I walked out, leaving behind a stunned Ethan and a seething Rachel, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. The path ahead was uncertain, filled with challenges I couldn't even imagine. But for the first time in months, I felt truly free. My hand moved to my stomach, a small smile playing on my lips. It's just you and me now, little one, I whispered, and we're going to be amazing. The months flew by in a whirlwind of doctor's appointments, legal meetings, and sleepless nights. My belly grew along with my determination to build a new life for myself and my baby. Ethan's attempts to reach out were met with silence. I had nothing left to say to him. As I neared my due date, I received an unexpected visitor. Grace, Ethan's mother, stood on my doorstep, her eyes brimming with tears. "Laura, dear," she said, pulling me into a gentle hug. "I hope you don't mind me dropping by. I needed to see you." I ushered her in, my heart heavy. Grace and Arnold had been nothing but supportive throughout this ordeal, but I knew their loyalty was torn between their son and me. "How are you feeling?" Grace asked, her eyes fixed on my swollen belly. "Tired," I admitted, "but ready." Grace nodded, her expression pained. "Laura, there's something you should know. Ethan and Rachel, they're planning to fight for custody." The world seemed to tilt beneath my feet. "What?" I gasped, steadying myself against the wall. "They claim you're unfit to be a single mother," Grace continued, her voice trembling with anger. "They're saying your work is too demanding, that you won't have time for the baby." Rage coursed through me, hot and fierce. "How dare they?" I seethed. "After everything they've done, they think they have the right to take my child?" Grace reached out, squeezing my hand. "Arnold and I won't let that happen. We'll testify on your behalf if it comes to that." Tears pricked my eyes. "Thank you," I whispered. As Grace left, I felt a sharp pain in my abdomen. I dismissed it, too preoccupied with this new threat. But as the evening wore on, the pain intensified. With a jolt of realization, I knew the baby was coming. I called my friend Sarah, who rushed over to drive me to the hospital. As we sped through the night, another contraction hit, stronger this time. "Breathe, Laura," Sarah urged, her knuckles white on the steering wheel. We arrived at the hospital in a flurry of activity. As I was wheeled into the delivery room, I caught sight of a familiar figure in the waiting area. Ethan. Our eyes met for a brief moment. I saw a mixture of emotions flash across his face: concern, regret, longing. But then Rachel appeared at his side, and his expression hardened. The next few hours were a blur of pain and determination. With each contraction, I channeled my anger, my fear, my love for this child I hadn't met yet. And then finally, a cry pierced the air. "It's a boy," the doctor announced, placing my son on my chest. As I looked into his tiny face, all the pain and betrayal of the past months melted away. This was what mattered, this perfect, innocent life we had created. But my moment of bliss was short-lived. A commotion outside the room caught my attention. Ethan's voice, raised in anger. "That's my son in there! I have a right to see him!" Panic gripped me. I clutched my baby closer, my heart racing. The nurse looked at me questioningly. "Do you want to see the father?" she asked gently. I shook my head, tears streaming down my face. "No," I whispered. "He's not welcome here." As if sensing my distress, my son began to cry. I soothed him, murmuring soft words of comfort. In that moment, I made a vow. No matter what it took, I would protect this child. From Ethan, from Rachel, from anyone who threatened our happiness. The nurse nodded understanding and left to deal with Ethan. As his protests faded, I looked down at my son, marveling at his tiny features. "It's just you and me now, little one," I whispered, echoing the words I'd spoken months ago. "And I promise you, we're going to be more than just fine. We're going to be extraordinary." 3 years flew by in a blur of first steps, sleepless nights, and countless moments of joy with my son Alex. I'd built a life for us, far from the shadows of Ethan and Rachel's betrayal. My design business thrived, and I'd even started dating again, though Alex remained my priority. Then, on a crisp autumn morning, my phone rang. Ethan's name flashed on the screen. My heart raced as I answered. "Laura," his voice was cold, accusatory. "What have you done to my parents?" I blinked, caught off guard. "Ethan, what are you talking about?" "Don't play dumb," he snarled. "Mom and Dad are broke. They're saying you're the reason why. What kind of sick game are you playing?" My mind reeled. I hadn't spoken to Grace and Arnold in months, not since they'd moved to Florida for retirement. "I haven't seen your parents in ages, Ethan. I have no idea what you're talking about." "Liar." Ethan's voice rose to a shout. "They've been sending you money for years, and now they can't even afford their medications. How could you do this to them? To Alex?" Anger surged through me. "Listen to me, Ethan. I don't know what's going on with your parents, but I have nothing to do with it. Maybe you should look closer to home for answers." There was a pause on the other end of the line. When Ethan spoke again, his voice was low and menacing. I'm warning you, Laura. If I find out you've been manipulating my parents, I'll take Alex away from you. You won't get away with this. The line went dead. I stood there, shaking, my mind racing. What was happening? I dialed Grace's number, but it went straight to voicemail. Arnold's, too. Panic rising, I called their neighbor in Florida. Oh, honey, the neighbor said, her voice heavy with sympathy. Grace and Arnold moved out weeks ago, said they couldn't afford the place anymore. I thought you knew. My blood ran cold. Something was terribly wrong. Just then there was a knock at my door. I opened it to find a stern-faced woman in a suit. Laura Thompson, she asked. I nodded, numb. I'm from Child Protective Services. We've received a report of potential child endangerment. I'm here to conduct an evaluation. My world tilted on its axis. Child endangerment? I echoed, disbelieving. There must be some mistake. The woman's face remained impassive. May I come in, please? As she entered, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. How does it feel to lose everything, sis? Karma's a bitch. Our Rachel. Of course. This was her doing. The CPS worker moved through my home, asking pointed questions about my parenting, my work hours, my financial situation. With each query, I felt the noose tightening. Where's your son now? She asked. At daycare, I replied, my voice barely above a whisper. She nodded, making a note. I'll need to speak with the daycare staff, and we'll be conducting follow-up visits. In the meantime, I strongly advise against any travel with your son. As she left, I collapsed onto the couch, my mind a whirlwind of fear and fury. Ethan and Rachel had orchestrated this, I was sure of it. They were trying to take Alex from me. My phone rang again. Grace's number. Laura? Her voice was weak, trembling. I'm so sorry. We didn't know what else to do. Rachel said if we didn't help them, we'd never see Alex again. But now they've taken everything. Tears streamed down my face as the full picture emerged. Ethan and Rachel had manipulated everyone, destroying lives in their wake. As I hung up, a steely resolve settled over me. They thought they'd won, that they'd finally broken me. But they had no idea what I was capable of when it came to protecting my son. I picked up my phone again, dialing a number I'd hoped never to use. Sarah? It's Laura. I need your help. It's time to fight back. The morning sun had barely risen when I heard the commotion outside my office. Ethan's voice, loud and belligerent, echoed through the hallway. Where is she? I demand to see Laura. My heart raced as I quickly dialed security. But before they could arrive, my office door burst open. Ethan stormed in, his face contorted with rage. Rachel closed behind him. You think you can hide from us? Ethan snarled. We know what you did to my parents. You're not fit to raise Alex. I stood my ground, anger and determination surging through me. I've done nothing to your parents, Ethan. You and Rachel are the ones who've manipulated and stolen from them. Rachel's face twisted into a sneer. Prove it. It's your word against ours. Who do you think they'll believe? The loving son or the bitter ex-wife? Just then, Sarah burst into the room, followed by 2 police officers. Actually, she said, her voice steady, they'll believe the evidence. Ethan and Rachel's faces paled as Sarah produced a stack of documents. We have bank records showing large transfers from Grace and Arnold's accounts to yours, Ethan. And Rachel, we have recordings of you threatening them if they didn't comply. The officers stepped forward. Ethan Thompson, Rachel Thompson, you're under arrest for fraud and extortion. As they were led away in handcuffs, Ethan's mask of arrogance crumbled. Laura, he pleaded, you can't let them do this. Think of Alex. I met his gaze, my voice firm. I am thinking of Alex, that's why I'm doing this. Once they were gone, I collapsed into my chair, overwhelmed by the emotions coursing through me. Sarah placed a comforting hand on my shoulder. It's over, Laura, you did it. But it wasn't over. Not yet. Later that day, I stood outside Alex's daycare, my heart in my throat. The staff had been briefed about the situation, but I was still terrified of what might happen. As I waited, a familiar car pulled up. Grace and Arnold stepped out, looking older and more frail than I remembered. Laura, Grace's voice quavered as she approached. We're so sorry, for everything. I pulled them both into a hug, tears streaming down my face. It's okay, I whispered. You're safe now. The daycare doors opened, and Alex came bounding out. Mommy, he cried, throwing himself into my arms. I held him tight, savoring his warmth, his innocence. Hey, buddy, there's some people I want you to meet. I turned to Grace and Arnold, who were watching with tear-filled eyes. Alex, these are your grandparents. They've been away for a while, but they're here now. As Alex shyly said hello, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. We had a long road ahead of us, rebuilding trust and healing old wounds. But for the first time in years, I felt hope. That night, as I tucked Alex into bed, he asked a question that broke my heart. "Mommy, why did Daddy and Aunt Rachel go away?" I took a deep breath, choosing my words carefully. Sometimes, honey, people make bad choices, but that doesn't mean they don't love you. It just means they need to learn how to love better. Alex nodded, his little face serious. "Will I see them again?" "Maybe someday," I said, kissing his forehead. "But for now, we have each other, and Grandma and Grandpa, and that's more than enough." As I closed his bedroom door, I caught sight of myself in the hallway mirror. The woman staring back at me was stronger, wiser, and more resilient than I ever thought possible. I had weathered the storm of betrayal, fought for my child, and come out the other side. Not unscathed, but unbroken. Tomorrow, we would start the process of relocating, finding a new home where we could build a peaceful life away from the shadows of the past. It wouldn't be easy, but I was ready for the challenge. Because now I knew the truth, I was capable of facing anything life threw at me. And with Alex by my side, I had all the love and strength I needed to face whatever came next. As I settled into bed, I smiled to myself. The future was uncertain, but for the first time in years, I was excited to see what it held. Because whatever came our way, I knew we would face it together, and that was all that mattered.